What has Leon been up to? What was Alyssa doing in between Resident Evil Outbreak and her untimely death? And who the hell is Victor Gideon? I'm going to answer all those questions and more in this plot refresher for Resident Evil Requiem. This is especially made for those of you who need a reminder of what's been going on in the endlessly tangled world of Resident Evil before you play Resident Evil Requiem. I needed this just as badly as you, as Leon is a traumatized, globe-trotting, headcanonly, tramp stamp-loving icon, so let's get on with it. Leon has been all over the place, so I'm going to stick to the most relevant and key elements of his lore here, because we would be starting a multi-part series if I explored everything he's been up to. And yes, I would love that too, but I have other videos to make. Boo. After the events of 1998, i.e. Resident Evil 2 and Leon's terrible first day at work, Leon got introduced to the zombie virus that Umbrella was creating, otherwise known as the T-virus, after it got into the city's water supply and turned everyone undead. After that, Leon gets recruited to US STRATCOM, the United States Strategic Command, specifically the Anti-Umbrella Pursuit and Investigation Team. He's one of many who are mopping up the mess Umbrella left behind, dealing with their rogue scientists, and generally being sent to investigate, contain, or eliminate any bioweapon-adjacent threats around the world. Working for US STRATCOM takes Leon to Spain to rescue the president's daughter Ashley, who has been infected with a Las Plagas parasite. The type she was infected with can be controlled by dominant strains of Las Plagas, with the ultimate aim of turning the president's daughter into a sleeper agent under the control of Los Iluminados, a Spanish religious cult. Leon is also infected with Las Plagas during his attempt to rescue and cure Ashley, but through many trials and tribulations, manages to cure both him and Ashley and returns to the United States of America. Early signs of Leon becoming disillusioned with the US government came during the Eastern Slav Civil War of 2011. By this point, US STRATCOM had dissolved the Anti-Umbrella Pursuit and Investigation Team, and Leon became part of the Division of Security Operations, otherwise known as DSO, another anti-bioterrorism branch of the US government. Leon was sent to the Eastern Slav Republic to investigate the rumoured use of bioweapons during the Civil War. He rejected orders to return home when the US pulled out of the conflict and evacuated all citizens, essentially going rogue to continue his investigation into the use of bioweapons in the country. These rumours were accurate, and the bioweapons in use were none other than Las Plagas. Ultimately, Leon was rescued from the Eastern Slav Republic after he failed to capture the President Belikova, who was using bioweapons to prop up her regime, and in a twist the US and Russia put aside their differences and joined forces to finish off President Belikova's regime and its bioweapons. In 2013, Leon was told by his good friend, former director of the DSO and then President Adam Benford, that he planned to reveal the truth about the government's involvement in Raccoon City. Benford hoped that the transparency would allow the government to freely operate against bioterrorism threats without opposing forces using the US government's business dealings with Umbrella to hamstring them. As per usual, things did not go to plan, and President Benford was infected with a chrysalid virus as part of an assassination plot, forcing Leon to euthanize him. Here we see the start of Leon's disillusionment with the US government, in my opinion. Seeing someone who wants to do the right thing get assassinated is enough to make anyone start to lose hope. And if things weren't depressing enough, having to euthanize someone who was akin to a father figure to him, Leon found out that National Security Advisor Derek Simmons initiated the assassination. Simmons was head of an organisation called The Family, who conducted clandestine bioweapon research for the US, out of fear that rival superpowers such as China were also working on bioweapons, and the US would be weaker on the global stage should a conflict emerge where bioweapons were used. This is real mutually assured destruction stuff and is absolutely comparable to the paranoia certain countries have around other countries having nuclear weapons. Anyway, Leon pursued Simmons to the Chinese city of Langxiang and attempted to detain him and bring him to justice. One thing you can't say about Leon is that he doesn't put his whole Lucy into doing his job. Chaos erupted when a C-virus bomb was detonated over the city by Neo Umbrella, a bioterrorist organisation. Within minutes, Lanxiang was overrun with infected, but Leon managed to evacuate, although Simmons was killed in the ensuing mess. The family elected a new, unknown leader, and Leon, despite all this trauma, was somehow cleared for duty with the DSO. After a mission in Bethesda, Leon takes some time off and turns to low-key alcoholism to numb his trauma and presumed gnarly PTSD. At this point, he's seen colleagues, refugees, citizens, at least one president, soldiers, and God knows who else die from bioweaponry, and the very government he works for is at fault for at least half of those deaths, due to the government's sponsorship of Umbrella's bioweapon research pre-1998. In the chronology, Resident Evil Death Island is the last time we see Leon before Requiem. Death Island takes place in 2015, which is just 2 years before the Baker House incident, and Ethan Winter's very bad no good day, documented in Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Death Island is a snappy name for an overrun Alcatraz, where the T-virus has run riot. As well as facing a zombie megalodon, Leon encountered former Umbrella operative turned bioterrorist Dylan Blake. Blake ripped into Leon for working for the government, which has been perpetuating bioterror via its agencies, the DSO and the BSAA, the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance. That can't have felt good. Taking a page from Chris and the Wolfhound Squad's book in Resident Evil Village, Leon might have gone rogue by the time Resident Evil Requiem takes place. He still appears to have access to DSO's resources, however. His surprise at seeing Grace, a member of the FBI at Rhodes Hill Civic Care Centre, could indicate that he's doing his own independent research during Requiem and isn't tapped into what the government's satellite organisations like the FBI are up to. We'll just have to wait and see. Alyssa and her f***ass Bob was in Jack's bar when the Raccoon City incident went down. She saw a zombie, initially dismissed as a drunk, attack the bartender, fled, and was eventually rescued and evacuated from Raccoon City before the sterilisation operation. As a ruthless, unshakable journalist and general icon, Alyssa, despite being at risk of being ripped apart by ex-humans, interviewed those around her and forensically documented what she saw in Raccoon City. This would eventually become the backbone of her exposé about Umbrella. Her article, titled "What is a BOW? Blowing the Lid Off This Horrifying Secret Project," blew the whistle on Umbrella's virus contaminating the Raccoon City's water supply, their bioweapon research, and the civilian death toll of their repeated cock-ups. Alyssa's Watershed article snowballed into Umbrella being put on trial for its illegal activities and the destruction of Raccoon City, eventually ballooning into the 5-year-long Raccoon trials. However, as the US government denied the existence of bioweapons to cover up its own part in the outbreak and Umbrella's bioweapon research, Alyssa's article and other Raccoon City survivors' testimony were, in public opinion, dismissed as unhinged conspiracy theories. Between her time at the Raccoon trials and the Baker House incident, Alyssa became pregnant and gave birth to her only child, a daughter named Grace. Perhaps the fallout from the Raccoon trials impacted Alyssa's reputation as a journalist, because instead of getting work at national newspapers, she appears to have laid low. In 2016, she was writing for the Dulvey Daily, a local newspaper with a presumably very small readership. One of her articles discussed the strange disappearances around town over the last 2 years, centering on students, homeless people, and even honeymooners getting abducted near the Baker House. Alyssa's career took her to the Wrenwood Hotel in 2018, which she had begun to investigate as the site of a series of murders. As a single mother, she had no choice but to take her teenage daughter Grace with her, leaving her in the hotel room during the day as she did detective work to find out about the victims of the murders. As tenacious as ever, Alyssa was making progress, but someone did not appreciate her efforts. While staying at the Wrenwood Hotel with Grace, someone would ring their hotel room and ask for Miss Ashcroft, presumably to make sure Alyssa was in the hotel. After power to the hotel was cut, Alyssa attempted to flee with her daughter, hiding the file that contained all her research behind a painting. A smart move, as she wouldn't make it out of the hotel alive. As they neared the exit, Alyssa impressed upon Grace a strange phrase.
Please know that you are my hope. Never forget that.
Someone then murdered Alyssa in front of Grace and set the hotel on fire to cover their tracks. Traumatized isn't a strong enough word to describe the impact her mother's murder had on Grace. Resolving to do whatever she could to solve her mother's murder, after the police investigation was presumably closed without any suspects, Grace eventually joined the FBI as an analyst. Working alongside classified documents, confidential investigations, and learning how to find people who wanted to remain hidden, Grace's work at the FBI would have her assigned to investigate the Wrenwood Hotel once again. The murders Alyssa had begun to investigate have started up again, and Grace intends to finish what her mother started. Victor Gideon is a semi-enigma right now. There are few things that I know for certain, but one of them is that he used to work for Umbrella. Umbrella was dissolved in 2004 after it filed for bankruptcy following the Raccoon trials, which exposed Umbrella being the cause of the thousands of deaths at Raccoon City in 1998. The bankruptcy was due to the thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands, of compensation claims Umbrella was legally bound to pay to the victims of the Raccoon City disaster. Only one bit of Umbrella still exists as a residual branch: Blue Umbrella. It's now an American private military company formed out of the remnants of Umbrella's American branch. I would bet that Blue Umbrella was created as a way to keep Umbrella's institutional knowledge and NDAs intact, and prevent competitors from accessing legacy employees' bioweapon knowledge and research. A very similar thing happened after World War II. Victor Gideon used to work for Umbrella, so at some point he may have also worked for Blue Umbrella, but I don't think he has for a while. He purchased the Rhodes Hill Civic Care Centre after Umbrella went under, and used it as a base of operations for whatever research he was conducting. This photo Leon finds shows that, strangely, Victor looks far from normal in comparison to the other doctors in his employ. He has a grey pallor to his skin and looks to be about 7 foot tall. Were these peculiar qualities a result of Victor experimenting upon himself? Victor's sphere of interest by the events of Resident Evil Requiem centre around blood. His headset is potentially the morphic visor mentioned in the GameStop leak, but whatever it is, it's clearly used in his work somehow. A large cohort of staff worked alongside Victor. Rhodes Hill Civic Care Centre hadn't devolved into the chaos Grace would eventually witness when Leon arrived, as he was civilly met by an unbloodied member of staff and told that Victor had been expecting him. From Grace's gameplay, we know that once in Victor's grasp, part of her blood has been extracted, and she's been dosed with Dexafil. Dexafil could be a version of a real-life medication named dexamethasone, which treats a variety of ailments. Overuse can lead to the patient developing cataracts, which is interesting, considering the pale eyes of enemies Leon and Grace are due to run into. Speaking of, Victor is probably also behind the creation of the Stalker. On its wrists are snapped shackles, indicating it's broken free of confinement, and is likely what's behind the massacred doctors and nurses that Grace stumbles upon. We don't know much else about Victor at the moment, apart from the fact that he likes listening to records in abandoned rooms, has a penchant for his snazzy snakeskin coat, is scarred from his sternum to his mouth, has metallic teeth, and an unhealthy interest in Grace. He says she's special, chosen, and key to Elpis, whatever Elpis actually is. Now, Two groups named the Family and the Connections are the main threats in the Resident Evil universe at the moment. The Connections are the people behind Evelyn's creation and the Baker incident, and they could be funding Victor's research. On the other side, Victor does appear to be wearing rings. One of them could be the family ring that signals his participation in their organisation, but that is just a theory. Did you spot anything else in the trailers for Resident Evil Requiem that I've missed here that feels significant to you? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like this video if you found out something new or useful for recapping the story before Resident Evil Requiem, and subscribe to Eurogamer for more videos about Resident Evil Requiem, as I am going to be covering that game until it's the death of me. And other horror games though, and shucks, just video games in general, for more videos almost every single day. Now I'm going to go and continue doing fan art of the Stalker because I just love everything she's doing, so I'll see you folks next time.